Hi, Patricia McPherson, Grassroots Coalition. Thank you for having me. I have a request based upon the helpfulness of Santa Monica Bay Restoration Commission to bring in CDFW into dialogue with the public regarding access. So I appreciate that, and I would appreciate that continue. But since 2012, all of the work of the environmental review regarding restoration purposes on Baiona was handed over from the Bay Foundation, the leadership, to this body, and creating the WRDA process, which is the Water Resource Development Act process, and with CDFW, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, as lead. So it would be helpful, as I just said, to continue with this process of continuing dialogue. And we would like to have addressed issues that haven't been addressed in the final environmental impact report or the draft environmental impact report, namely the watershed issues of contamination to the underlying freshwater aquifers of Baiona, and the saltwater interface that is recommended in alternatives 1 through 3, which would contaminate these freshwater aquifers that are classified currently as potential drinking water by the Water Board, but they are also, in a recent Prop 65 suit, SoCalGas has had to remediate portions of the aquifer to a drinking water standard. And should that characterization of the water change according to their settlement agreement, SoCalGas would no longer have to remediate to a drinking water standard. So that is of great concern, especially considering a lot of the work that is ongoing now, and especially considering their own abandonment reports that have been written up that cite the fact that they have other areas of contamination of concern. So if this body could help bring Fish and Wildlife into dialogue regarding these matters, it would be very helpful. So far, Fish and Wildlife has responded that there are no freshwater issues regarding the restoration, which that's a general statement that I've just made regarding their response so far. But it is an inaccurate statement. We know from the Poland report that was written in the 50s that these are all freshwater bodies that we even used to have drinking water in Playa del Rey. But also the Playa Vista EIR cites that the groundwaters, the freshwaters, are at or near the surface. So did I just go over my time, or am I okay here still? 57?
You're fine.
Good.
Got 55 seconds.
I'm listening to beeps go off. So we do know that the area has a great deal of freshwater resource, and we want those resources restored to Baiona, especially the ones that have been being diverted through the illegal drains as cited by the Coastal Commission and acknowledged by the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and various other contaminations that are ongoing through oil wells within the area. And with that, I'll end it, and thank you very much.
My name is Kathy Knight, and I was speaking on behalf of the Baiona Ecosystem Education Project. I wanted to I'll introduce myself. I've been volunteering for the last 27 years to save the Baiona wetlands and the wildlife and the plants out there especially. And we would like to be able to, since it did finally get saved, we would like to be able to go out there on the land on a limited amount, but into Area A, and just monitor the trash out, pick up the trash and litter out there, monitor the plants and animals out there. And I wanted to thank Fish and Wildlife for giving a written summary of their memo from the August meeting about this. And they said that they don't have enough funds for, you know, a ranger to go out there and be present regarding the homeless and to monitor things. And I just, hope we can work with them to at least have a situation where we could go out at even minimum to begin with, once or twice a month, and bring some volunteers, citizen volunteers out there, and we can clean up. And I would even, commit to trying to raise money to fund a ranger to do that. I've spent over $500,000 of my own money in the last 25 years to save this land. And I hate to be not able to go out there and help protect it and maintain it because of this issue. And so if there's a funding problem, we would be happy to try to work on that. And also, I wanted to just get the word out again that the Ballona wetlands is a freshwater wetland. We have a lot of documentation on that. And it had a small area with some salt pan towards the ocean, but it's a freshwater wetland. And I have plenty of information that I could share. We could even do a presentation on why the Ballona wetlands is a freshwater wetland. And it's just totally unacceptable and unthinkable that the environmental impact report that's being finalized has had no alternative studied for the restoration as a freshwater wetland. Not a single alternative was studied. So it's just been really just unacceptable to us to change it into this mostly a saltwater bay. But we would be happy to do a presentation to you why it is a freshwater wetland. We have a lot of documentation. So thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you very much, Kathy, and thank you for your commitment to Ballona.
The next commenter is Margaret Griswold.
I would just like to speak today. I'm Margot Griswold, a restoration ecologist with over 25 years experience in Southern California and throughout California. I've worked on the West Bluffs project, designed and oversaw implementation on the restoration of the bluffs. And before that, worked on some aspects of water, fresh water, in regard to McGuire Thomas, the previous developer of the Playa Vista area. So I have some knowledge of the area. And I would just like to say that I am dismayed that in the alternatives for the project, that no alternate to the 3 full tidal wetlands was offered. So first of all, it's a violation of CEQA, but we won't get into that here. I would just like to say that the design of the project, the top-down science advisory panel, and what has gone on is against all things I ever learned in my experience, in my training, and in my implementation of successful projects in California. The Ballona Wetlands project is not a restoration. None of those current alternatives focus on the vegetation or wildlife, nor optimal benefits to those wildlife historically and currently present. The published science indicates that Ballona Wetlands was not a historic full tidal marsh, and its natural closing patterns and the historic data are documented in recent publications from 2011. This has been pointed out repeatedly to the Department of Fish and Wildlife, but there is never a change in the project. The plan also ignores regional patterns of loss in coastal wetlands. So coastal wetlands are more than just full tidal wetlands. And you see here in a study from North San Diego County, which you could extrapolate up the coast if you're knowledgeable about Orange County, the loss of salt marsh, about 12% The loss of salt flat, seasonally flooded salt pan is 90%. And the loss of freshwater brackish marsh is 54%. But look, we have an increase in open water mudflats of 615%. So historically, we're out of whack and we're not considering what could be good for the region. We don't want to homogenize any more of our coastal wetlands. This is Bayona after the rains this year. Okay, fresh water, as you can see from these photos. This is what can happen with fresh water. Here are the areas of the non-permitted drains taken before capping. You see weedy areas of dry annual grasses. After 3 years, here's what you're seeing, pickleweed, a wetland plant. And I would just like to end with this photo. Here's the Pacific Ocean, here's Marina del Rey, and here's the Bayona Flood Control Channel. Leave it a flood control channel. You can't change what's there. If you really want to clean up Bayona Flood Control Channel, usually it's common to start at the upper watershed. And I would say, I don't know any project to combat sea level rise that takes soil away and lowers the land. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Yes,
This
we
is
can hear you.
Cindy Harden, and although I have worked for over 20 years now at the Bayona Wetlands as first a volunteer and then an employee of Los Angeles Audubon Society, today I am speaking as a private citizen. I echo the same concerns as the previous 3 speakers in regards to the presence of fresh water at Bayona. Historically, this was a closed system for most of the year and sometimes all of the year, depending upon amount of rainfall that appeared in any given year. There are still lots of freshwater areas evident, including in Area A from Fiji Way. You can view an elderberry. There's a beautiful sycamore just on the west side of the 90 freeway in Area C. And to lose these freshwater marshes, which Ms. Griswold pointed out, there's already been a tremendous loss of these types of wetlands up and down the coast due to restoration projects at other sites. I just am hoping, urging the state to offer an alternative that respects that fresh water and would enhance habitat that comes with that kind of presence of fresh water, and also one that would allow fresh water to continue to flow to our salt pan that's located, the large one on Area B. Right now there are thousands probably of black-bellied plovers, and they're huddling along the creek amidst the rocks, waiting for that rain to come. So invertebrates that are currently dormant, aquatic invertebrates buried in the sediment, will come alive when the water flows. In the restoration, as proposed in alternatives 1, 2, and 3 goes forward, berms will be built along culvert that will impede freshwater flow that recharges those salt pans every year and provides forage and habitat for these migratory birds. I am just hoping that reconsideration will be given and a new study conducted that acknowledges the hydrology of the site rather than pushing through the alternatives that have been offered currently. And that's all I have to say. I thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to hearing further developments, and I hope in a way that I see respects the history of this precious 640 acres. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments, Cindy.
I'm Lisa Levinson. I work with In Defense of Animals. We are an animal protection nonprofit organization based in California with 250,000 supporters who care about animals and their habitats. We have 1,800 supporters in the city of Los Angeles. Our supporters want to walk on the trail at Fiji Way, where the state of California spent significant amount of money to require public access. We are very concerned that the access is being held hostage by this destructive plan. If this counterfeit restoration goes forward, all of the thriving animals at Ballona Wetlands who live there now will be gone by the time there's any new public access that opens. Public access that the Department of Fish and Wildlife touts as being so wonderful in their letter, the one that Marcia referred to earlier, is limited and restricted, just like the access that was available when the land was privately owned, with mostly the same groups permitted on the land when developers at Playa Vista owned it. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife letter is filled with excuses, and we, the public, and IDA are also tired of hearing excuses. Thank you so very much for your time.
I wanted to have Wang Yu call on Eric Gilman for a litigation report.
Hi, this is Eric Gilman, again, counsel for the commission. As hopefully all of you know, and previously reported on, there are two active cases involving the commission. Both were brought by the Ballona Wetlands Land Trust. One relates to the general governance structure of the commission and the MOU, that is the Memorandum of Understanding, recently updated. The other relates to Public Records Act requests. The parties, the commission and the trust, are actively engaged in mediation. And I look forward to potentially sharing, positive outcome from that at a future meeting, but that's ongoing.
Thank you very much. Walter, I apologize for the interruption.
Lamb, representing the Ballona Wetlands Land Trust. I just want to say thank you again to the commission, to the chair, to staff for for working with the Department of Fish and Wildlife on that letter. We really appreciate it. This is exactly how we want to work collaboratively with this commission, with the department. And I'm not going to get into things that we thought and we didn't quite understand in the letter that didn't seem to, gel with our understanding of access. And I want to focus instead on the common ground, because in hearing people talk about access, everybody seems to agree that outdoor nature education and wildlife appreciation is extremely valuable. I haven't heard anyone, say otherwise. And that existing programs are valuable, which I participate in one of them. I am a volunteer for Cindy, who spoke earlier, in her private capacity. And I really enjoy leading those walks, taking either school kids or families out and showing them, some of the amazing wildlife. But that more is needed. We all seem to agree that more is needed. Successful programs were previously run in Area A. And the way we read the letter from the department is that we can resume access to Area A if it meets certain criteria. And the good news is we agree with everything that the department raised as a potential concern. Our organization has always been prioritize wildlife over, the use of people and habitat, stay on trails and that sort of thing. Safety is a big deal. We did first two summers, we did a kids summer camp. We were very focused on safety. Avoid visitors or vehicles being locked behind gates. Any of us that has ever gone to a trailhead that, there's a gate that says, open dawn to dusk, we know it's really our responsibility to get our vehicles out of there, but there are other ways to help. And remind people when it closes. And these just aren't really difficult problems to address, and we want to help. And other speakers also say, we want to help. We don't want to just be complaining that there's not access. We want to help raise money if needed. I do think there's about $2 million left in the same bucket of money that paid for those earlier amenities. But let's work together on that. And then the only other comment I'm going to make is that on the MOA, and I appreciated Eric's comments, on trying to work together to resolve past issues. And on the MOA, somebody had mentioned that at the June meeting, I believe, or maybe the August meeting, that we try to get some additional transparency into that MOA. And that's something that we've been looking for quite a while. I'm just going to mention one record, excuse me, because the new fiscal year has started. So you have a new annual assistance application that was probably sent in the summer or spring, and a new agreement. And those are basic NEP documents that you should have. Again, not trying to get into the weeds here, but those documents are right at the center of what you do in terms of overseeing implementation of the CCMP, overseeing the funding. And so as you talk about the MOA, we really hope that we can work together to make sure that it addresses that file, that record sharing, so that you, let alone us, don't get sort of blocked out from being able to read something that you worked on, you put together. Again, I just really want to say we appreciate the letter. Let's use that as a starting point. Really appreciated the comments from various members about the discussion at the EC meeting. We're looking forward to that. We want it to be as positive as possible. Again, thank you for the time.